Today's question asks, how do we create a strong emotional bond with our spouse? So how does a marriage have a strong emotional connection? So in this video, I'll be using strong emotional bond, emotional connection, and secure connection interchangeably, okay? So having an emotional connection with your spouse is very, very important. I hear it a lot where, especially amongst the men, they'll say, I pay the bills, I've got her a car, the best handbag, the best jewelry, the best everything, the best holidays. What more does she want from me? And this is the nature of man, you know what I mean? Like, we're very simple. And the women are the ones who sort of crave that emotional connection more than the men. Men crave it, but they interpret it to be through the materialistic things, right? So this is not conclusive. However, this is what I see most of the time. So an emotional connection, emotional attachment, it doesn't mean that husband and wife are, stuck to each other's waist. They're not glued to the waist. They're not only getting their needs met through each other, right? That's a myth. That's not true. Healthy couples who have a strong emotional connection, they have external sources where they get their needs met, some of their needs met, so they might have a fulfilling job, they will have maybe some community involvement, some hobbies that brings them joy, and other commitments around, external to the relationship, external to the family, right? And at the same time, they have a spouse that's there for them most of the time. So to create a strong emotional connection, when your spouse is making what we call a bid for emotional connection, a bid is pretty much like a request to say, hey, I want to connect with you, but not in those words. When you miss these bids, now missing a bid once or twice or sometimes doesn't define and destroy your relationship. But if you're constantly missing bids, your spouse's bid, your partner's bid to connect with you, time after time after time, right? Add a few years after that where you're missing those bids, you are going to drift apart. There's not going to be no emotional connection. Trust will be flimsy, right? Your partner can't rely on you, and it affects also the sex life as well. Okay, so there are 3 ways to respond to a request, to an emotional bid for connection. The first one is to turn towards your partner's bid. The second one is to turn away from your partner's bid. And the third one is to turn against your partner's bid for connection. So I'll give you an example. Let's say partner A is looking out the window while they're driving on the farm in the country, and they look out the window and they say, wow, look at that land, look at that farm, look at those animals, look at that peaceful house, right? As they're driving. Now, partner B has 3 options, right? Let's go to turning towards. So the first option, partner B would just simply turn the head slightly and say, wow, that does look peaceful, and continue driving. Now, if they're masters in this field, right? If they're masters in this field, they can expand on that and open up conversations. What do you like about the farm? And is there any dreams you have around farms and animals and stuff like that? That's the masters, right? But just turning your head and saying, wow, that looks amazing, is good enough. According to the research, you've turned towards your partner's need. The second one is to turn away. So you're in the car, partner A looks out the window and says, oh wow, look at that farm, look at that peaceful land. Turning away is just to pretend nothing happened, switch on the radio and continue looking straight and just ignoring your partner. Turning against is the worst one. Turning against is telling your spouse, something like, farm, which stupid person would live on a farm? Or, can you stop doing my head in with all your dreams about farms and lands and all that sort of stuff, right? No one cares about that type of stuff, right? That's turning against. Or, stop annoying me, I'm trying to listen to the radio here. Stop talking. That's turning against. Now, if you do that regularly, your emotional connection will be very bad. Your sex life will be very bad. Your partner will be very hurt and traumatized. Trust will be lacking and broken, because trust is not only not cheating. Trust is to be there for your spouse when they're trying to connect with you, right? So these are the ramifications. So to have a healthy or a secure connection, emotional connection, you need to be turning towards your spouse's request to connect, right? Most of the time. The research shows that couples who stayed married, happily married, and had a good sex life after 6 years in the research, they were turning towards bids for connection 86% of the time. That became like the glue for the relationship that kept them together. The couples who divorced after 6 years, they were only turning towards bids 33% of the time. However, it wasn't enough, right? There are other methods to strengthen the emotional connection, which I'll share in other videos. Be compassionate with yourself and be compassionate with others.